Imagine an island nation, shrouded in mystery, on the edge of the vast Indian Ocean. Madagascar, in the 18th century, was more than just a distant land on European maps. It was a crucible of ambition, a place where hidden forces shaped destinies long before any foreign flag was planted. What untold stories lie beneath the surface of official histories? What complex interplay of power and survival defined this era? A quiet rebellion was brewing, not of overt conflict, but of subtle, strategic defiance against the tides of global demand. Its whispers echo through the centuries, challenging our very understanding of agency. From afar, European powers cast their gaze upon Madagascar, perceiving it through a lens of resource and opportunity. They saw an untapped land, a potential source for their ever-growing imperial ambitions. But their understanding was, at best, incomplete. They sought raw materials, exotic goods, and, most tragically, human lives to fuel their burgeoning colonial economies. Yet, the island was far from a passive stage for European designs. It possessed its own intricate networks, its own formidable leaders. Who truly controlled the narrative of trade in this distant realm? At the heart of this unfolding drama lay a relentless, unquenchable European demand: enslaved people. The burgeoning plantation economies of the New World, the insatiable need for labor, drove a horrific transatlantic trade that reached far beyond the shores of West Africa. Madagascar, with its strategic location and established internal structures, became a critical, if often overlooked, source. This demand, a dark current in the ocean trade, would reshape the island's social fabric in profound and devastating ways. How would a society respond when its very people became a commodity? Faced with this immense external pressure, Malagasy leaders were not mere victims. They made a choice, a calculated and tragic one: they traded enslaved people for muskets. These European firearms were not abstract items, they were instruments of power, tools that could redraw the internal political landscape. This bargain, born of necessity and ambition, transformed the very nature of conflict and control on the island. What were the true costs of this exchange? And how did a weapon from afar become the key to local dominance? The repercussions would echo for generations. The introduction of muskets fundamentally reshaped the dynamics of power within Madagascar. No longer was traditional weaponry the sole arbiter of strength. Those Malagasy leaders who acquired firearms saw their internal authority surge. It was a catalyst for consolidation, enabling them to assert greater control over their domains and subdue rivals. This strategic acquisition of European technology became the bedrock upon which new forms of leadership and governance were built. But with this newfound power came a dangerous escalation. What would be the true legacy of this militarization? Fueled by the power of muskets, Malagasy kings began to forge formidable armies. This was not merely about defense, it was about expansion, about building larger, more centralized kingdoms. The ambition to unify disparate territories, to create powerful state entities, gained unstoppable momentum. These nascent states, armed with European technology, challenged existing hierarchies and reshaped the political map of the island. A new era of state building had begun, one intertwined with the brutal realities of global trade. How far could this ambition extend, and at what human cost? Beyond the coastal trade, the control of internal trade routes was crucial to Malagasy power. Long before Europeans arrived, a vibrant internal economy thrived, rich in valuable commodities like iron and cattle. These resources were not only vital for daily life but also symbols of wealth and influence. Leaders understood that dominance over these internal arteries of commerce translated directly into political power. It was a complex dance between local resources and global demands, often overlooked in external accounts. What quiet strengths sustained these inland empires? But the narrative of Malagasy agency extended far beyond the inland kingdoms. Along the island's expansive coast, communities like the Antaleatra and Zafaramenia emerged as critical intermediaries. These were not mere agents of foreign powers, they were sophisticated actors with deep-rooted traditions and strategic positions. Their role was pivotal, connecting the interior's resources with the demands of the vast Indian Ocean trade. They were the gatekeepers, the translators of commerce, standing at the vital crossroads of cultures and economies. What gave these coastal communities such unique leverage? The expertise of the Antaleatra and Zafaramenia was not new. It was honed over centuries, passed down through generations of skilled mariners and merchants. Their long-standing ocean trade experience stretched back into ancient times, predating European arrival by centuries. They understood the currents, the monsoon winds, and the intricate rhythms of the sea. This deep, inherited knowledge made them indispensable to anyone seeking to navigate the complex trade networks of the Indian Ocean. Their ships were not merely vessels, they were conduits of a timeless legacy. What wisdom did these ancient tides whisper to them? Crucially, these coastal communities were already deeply integrated into existing East African, Arab, and Indian Ocean trade networks. Their world extended far beyond the nascent European presence. They facilitated a diverse exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures, long before the demand for enslaved people intensified. This pre-existing, robust network provided them with resilience and alternatives, allowing them to engage with European traders on their own terms, not merely as passive recipients. What strength did this long-established web of connections provide them? The Antaleatra and Zafaramenia possessed their own distinct commercial interests, often diverging sharply from those of European agents. They were not simply conduits, they were active participants, making strategic choices to maximize their own gain. They engaged in deliberate diversion of goods, rerouting valuable commodities to their preferred markets or holding them back for better prices. This was a subtle but powerful form of resistance, a quiet assertion of economic sovereignty. Who held the true leverage in these intricate negotiations? The answer was not always clear. One of their most potent tools was the manipulation of prices. By controlling access to goods and possessing superior local market intelligence, these intermediaries could dictate terms, influencing the value of both imported European goods and exported Malagasy commodities. They understood the delicate balance of supply and demand, leveraging their knowledge to their advantage. This subtle economic warfare chipped away at European dominance, forcing foreign traders to contend with local rules and prices. How much could the price of a single musket or a bundle of iron fluctuate under their influence? Further underscoring their autonomy, these coastal communities actively established independent trading posts. These were not European concessions, but Malagasy-controlled hubs for commerce, often strategically located away from major European strongholds. These posts served as sovereign points of exchange, where local rules, rather than colonial dictates, prevailed. They were tangible symbols of a refusal to be fully subsumed into a European-centric trade system. Each new post was a small declaration of independence. What message did these emerging outposts send to distant empires? The intermediaries were adept at forming alliances, not just with powerful Malagasy kingdoms, but with a diverse array of local groups. This strategic networking created a complex, interwoven tapestry of allegiances and interests, further complicating the European understanding of the island. These alliances provided vital support, information, and access to interior resources, solidifying the intermediaries' position as indispensable players. It was a fluid, dynamic political landscape, where power was constantly negotiated and redefined. Who held the ultimate loyalty of these interconnected networks? The cumulative effect of these actions, the internal power shifts, the strategic bargaining, the independent commercial ventures of coastal communities, was the creation of a truly complex, multipolar commercial landscape. Madagascar was not simply a European trading outpost, it was a vibrant, contested space where multiple centers of power and influence vied for control. European traders found themselves navigating a world far more intricate and resistant than they often acknowledged. This was the quiet rebellion in full swing, a testament to Malagasy agency. Who truly shaped the island's destiny? Yet, this assertion of Malagasy agency came at a terrible price. The very slave trade that enabled the acquisition of muskets and strengthened some leaders also intensified existing social hierarchies within the island. The demand for captives fueled internal conflicts, transforming people into commodities and deepening societal divisions. Power, gained through such a brutal exchange, cast a long, dark shadow. The lines between the powerful and the vulnerable became starker, more tragically defined. What unforeseen internal wounds did this quiet rebellion inflict? The muskets, symbols of power and expansion, also became instruments of escalating violence. The internal conflicts, often driven by the very desire to acquire more captives for trade, spiraled into more devastating wars. Villages were raided, communities fragmented, and countless individuals were forcibly taken, swelling the ranks of those trafficked across the ocean. The cycle of demand, arms, and enslavement became a self-perpetuating tragedy. The quiet rebellion, while asserting agency, inadvertently deepened the island's suffering. What was the true cost of these instruments of power? The ultimate, harrowing consequence was greater enslavement. The strategic choices made by Malagasy leaders, while bolstering their internal power and asserting a measure of autonomy from European influence, directly contributed to the increased capture and sale of their own people. It's a paradox of power, a grim reality where self-preservation and ambition intertwined with profound human tragedy. The ships sailing from Malagasy shores carried not just goods, but the heartbreaking weight of lives forever altered. What complex emotions must have driven such terrible decisions? Out of this complex and often brutal landscape, a new vision of state-building emerged. By the 19th century, some Malagasy leaders, having consolidated power through these turbulent times, began to forge unified kingdoms. Radamai, for example, stands as a testament to this era, building a centralized state that would significantly shape Madagascar's future. His reign represented a powerful assertion of Malagasy's sovereignty and a distinct path toward modernity, forged in the crucible of the previous century's trade dynamics. What did it take to unite a fractured land? The narrative of the 18th century Malagasy ocean trade is not one of passive victimhood. It is a testament to the complex agency of Malagasy actors. They were not merely pawns in a European game, they actively shaped the trade to their own advantage, asserting their economic and political will. Their decisions, though sometimes fraught with devastating consequences, were strategic. They were architects of their own destiny, maneuvering within a global system that sought to define them. What does it mean to be a player, not a pawn, in a world designed for exploitation? Their actions, born from necessity and ambition, created a distinct Malagasy form of modernity and state-building. This was not a replication of European models, but an organic evolution shaped by unique historical circumstances, internal dynamics, and global pressures. The choices made on the coasts and in the hinterlands of Madagascar forged a unique identity, a legacy of resilience and self-determination. The island's path to the modern era was carved by its own hands, for better or for worse, in a dance with global forces. What distinct modernity blossomed from these complex origins? And so, the quiet rebellion of the 18th century Malagasy ocean trade stands revealed. It was a complex, multi-layered assertion of agency, a refusal to be merely an endpoint in a global chain. The Malagasy people, through their leaders and their coastal intermediaries, navigated a treacherous world, making choices that, while devastating in their human cost, allowed them to retain a measure of control over their fate. It is a story that demands our attention, reminding us that even in the darkest chapters of history, the human spirit strives for sovereignty, for a voice, a distinct path. A testament to enduring resilience.